There's a lot of things, Bruce. You know, a lot of a lot of shots I know we normally make. Some mistakes that we made as far as some, you know, the way we want to cover certain situations, things that are very correctable. You know, again, in a one-point game, you can pick out a million things that you wish you could have done differently and could have done, you know, to get one bucket, one basket, or one stop. So it was encouraging. There, you know, there's nobody in the locker room with their head down. There's nobody, you know, giving into the you know, Toronto versus Cleveland thing. You know, they're a good team, but we're a good team also. So we're going to approach Thursday with that total approach, 1 through 15.
What were some of the things you might have said to your team after that tough overtime?
Well, again, you know, we know what we can do better. We know the situations where we made some mistakes. You know, some things we can do with certain matchups and certain lineups that are out there that were different for us. And so, you know, in an overtime game, you know, Nathan, there's so many things you can point out and do. But I just told him we'll look at it today. We did. Offensively and defensively, saw a lot of things that we can clean up and do better. And you know, again, they're a Cleveland team that you're going to have to give up something, whether it's you know, James posting up or Core, but you can't give up both. And I thought we had some situations where we gave up both, where he got his post-ups, plus he was passing the ball to the weak side. So we got to clean up those situations, how we want to handle the weak side, how we want to handle his post-ups.
Coach, after the game for the Washington series, we were talking about guys passing up shots. And you're saying that every time it's the right shot, he's taking it 10 times out of 10. How refreshing is that mindset, whether they go in or not, to be able to
Very refreshing, because he had, you know, talking to him, showed him the shot, 2 great looks that he normally, you know, he feels good with, we feel good with. Demar made the right decision. You know, he had the defense collapse on him, he found him. So, you know, again, it's easy, like I said, in a one-point game to pick out shots and this shot, that shot, this shot. But for the most part, I thought we you know, took the shots we had that the defense gave us in those situations.
He had been out before that last possession. They were working on his shoulder. Is part of the reason he's out there in that possession just because we know he will not hesitate in the
Well, just his toughness, his maturity, his IQ, Eric, is unbelievable. You know, he got hit on his shoulder. You know, it's just, you know, I think it scared him more than anything else. It was, you know, hurt a little bit, but we knew that going in, but he was ready to go back in. But his confidence level, our confidence level in him, his teammates' confidence level in him is at an all-time high, and that we'll take those shots every time down because, you know, we feel confident he can make those.
Last night, Lebron said he felt like he had an off night. How much credit do you give?
Again, I thought all the guys who guarded him, whether it was Pascal, OG, you know, all in those situations did a good job of guarding him. You know, you're not going to stop him. He's one of those guys that, you know, you want to try to break his rhythm, try to make him do different things. But, you know, I haven't seen anybody yet just to stop him. So we got to do some different things, and whether, you know, how we want to guard him, we want to do that. But, again, I thought both guys, Pascal and OG, you know, broke his rhythm as much as you possibly can. But what we can't do is lose people on the weak side, lose shooters, and not know where they are.
Dwane, you guys have to fight the instinct to stay at home when, you know, when Kevin's in the post.
It's always that's always a big guy, especially with him at the 5. It is a big instinct, and you're always fighting against that, whether it's JV or Serge or Jakob. You know, and those are some things we can clean up that we were doing to put ourselves in that position to overhelp. And
So when he's pushed onto a small and your bigs are left on the perimeter, the bigs want to come back
and help out, yeah. And you got to stay with who you're with, and there's certain plays that you don't want to help off of, and there's certain situations where we didn't want to switch him onto, and we got caught on that a couple of times.
Did LeBron look
No, all that bull crap. He's not. No, He didn't look tired. Don't let him fool you.
You talked about the confidence you guys have. Many of the players here talked about the high degree of confidence. Is it a different feeling from years past?
No question. Again, that's why I felt Bruce asked the first question that, I detect the guys are very confident. And there's no dejection or defeated attitude where, there's been times in the past in the playoffs where guys, you can't do this. But I don't detect that at all. I feel like I sense that our guys feel like that there's situations that we can clean up, plays we can make, plays we can take away. Just our completions at the rim, I think our numbers were like 16 for 36 at the rim. And those are numbers that we got to get up. You're not going to go 100%, but you can get those up, those type of plays. And, some of our turnover were live ball. I think we had 7 live ball turnovers where we gave it to them and they off to the races. Like I always say, I want them to throw it 12 rows up in the stands instead of a live ball turnover. So, a lot of things we can clean up in a one-point game. And again, they're going to come out with a determined attitude, and we are too. So Thursday night will be another battle.
What kind of explanation did they give you when you were asking for the review on?
Not a good one. Not a good one. Not a good one. Well, I don't think they felt like it was they said it wasn't intentional. It was incidental. But my thing is, let's review it. That's why we have the $50 million replay center. Let's get it right. Nobody's right or wrong, and if they look at it and say, hey, it wasn't intended, okay, but at least look at it. And that's my thing, and I thought that's why we have the replay center. So let's get it right. There's no excuse for that we can't at least go. We look at a lot less than where the guy has blood and bleeding. So let's at least go look at it. I'm not saying the officials are right or wrong, but as a league, I think we owe it to the players and to the fans. That's why we have the replay center, is to look at it.
Did you happen to see any of the stuff that was happening on the sideline for the break?
No. I saw it after 3 o'clock in the morning, but I didn't see it, when it happened. I don't care. It's Drake. I love Drake. I think he's got a right to say. Believe me, whatever he said to Perk, I've heard a lot worse in other arenas. To me, So it's not. I love it. No problem whatsoever with Drake and being excited, being passionate. We all should be that passionate, and so nothing whatsoever. No, not for me. Drake's a grown man. I mean, he understands. I love his passion, though. I love his passion. There's nothing. He's welcome there on the sideline saying what he says. Whatever he says. And again, he's not saying anything that's out of line or out of whack or whatever. I mean, he's been there for the whole year for one series. So I think it's just, people get caught up on let's keep the main thing the main thing.
Dwane, you were talking earlier about the difference in this year's team versus previous years in confidence, et cetera. How much of that plays into tomorrow in terms of the bounce back, not going to Cleveland down 0-2, not losing 2 in a row at home, something that
Well, when you think in the negative, automatically it's a negative. But I don't think we're thinking that way, and that's the difference, Eric. I think is what you're asking. I don't sense that. Oh, woe is me, or was scared. No. We see the mistakes we made. I see some of the things I can do different in myself as a coach, as a coaching staff. Some different sets we can run, different things we can do in certain situations. So we all, can see little things. And like I said, an overtime game or a close game, all the attention to details, all the little things make the difference.
Do you have a sense of what's holding Serge back? Obviously, when he's going,
Right. I thought he came in the fourth quarter and tried to knock down a couple of shots. But again, we need all of our bigs to rebound, Ryan, as much as anything else. Forget the shooting. I don't care about the number of shooting, but you can defend and rebound are the two areas, and space, and make sure you keep the proper spacing. I thought, a few times some of our bigs got in the wrong spot spacing-wise and really crowded the ball. So you can do other things to help us win other than just knock down jump shots or score buckets, mainly rebound. And, we got to do a better job of keeping Tristan Thompson and his 9 offensive rebounds off the glass, and that's a 5-man job.
Surge's the shot attempts are down since early in the Washington series. Is that the way that two teams are defending him, or is that something that he's doing or not?
Again, he's got some open looks, and he's got to take those. He's got to take them. But with that said, he still has to defend. Let's put it on the rebounding, defending. Okay, there's going to be series or matchups where you might not get the shot, but not just Serge. All of our guys. Let's make sure we do some of the other things. Screening, rebounding, get some deflections, get back in transition, whatever it is. There's other things that contribute to winning. That guys can do.